You're watching Leafs Morning Take with host Nick Alberga and former NHLer Jay Rosehill. The show starts now.
Presented by Bet365, it's time for the Friday edition of Leafs Morning Take. Nick Alberga joined by guest host Carter Hutton. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Use code NATION, all in uppercase, NATION. Today, look at that sign behind me, Hutz. Shout out to our friends over at Bet365. I love it.
I do love it too. I should get one of those too, buddy. I'm wheeling out starting goalies. I'm hot right now, 4 straight. The Blazers played this morning. My kid, he was in the pipes this morning, first time. My wife's stressed out to the max. Things are good here.
So the team name, the nickname is the Blazers.
No, that's not the nickname. That is the name. We are the Blazers, buddy.
What, you smoke joints before the game?
So this is hilarious. Minor hockey in Thunder Bay. There's too many teams now. There's so many kids. So it's North End Flames, and then they made a second team called the Blazers, and now they made a third team. You know what they're called? The Blazing Comets, because they already have the Comets. So I'm like, we could make a different name here. We don't have to. It doesn't have to be just a sign off of another one. Unbelievable names here. Not too creative up here in Thunder Bay.
I always wondered who is part of the committee that like names like kids teams. Like, for example, I played on the Oakville A's growing up. Like, who named the Oakville A's? Who named the Burlington Bulls? I'm a baseball guy, but like Oakville Rangers, for example, was a big team in my neck of the woods growing up. Like, who's in charge of the committee when it comes to branding and like what the team's called?
I don't know. It's bad.
Are you on that committee, Hutz?
I am not on. I was when they made the newest team this year was the Blazing Comets, and I was like, "You guys got to be kidding me! We have the Comets, we have the Blazers, now we got the Blazing Comets. Like, we couldn't have just called them the Wings or the Kings or Flyers or some sort of hockey name, but Blazing Comets, she is."
Dude, and it feels so good as a kid. I'm sure you felt this as well. Like, I remember when they introduced like home and away jerseys for the first time when I was in Oakville A. It is a spinoff of the Oakland A's, although the colors are blue, white, and red. I think to keep with the theme of Oakville, because we had the Oakville Rangers and the baseball team was the Oakville A's. But it's so cool as a kid when you have like home and away jerseys, like, and they doll you up. You got the tracksuits. Like, that's the best part about it.
Yeah, 100%. That is it. This morning we played at 8 a.m. this morning. So I ended up I have like one of those JBLs, like the big square ones we use at our hockey school. So I brought that. So it's like 7:30 this morning. My little guy's like coming into the rink, pumping the tunes. It was his first time in net too. We're driving out to the rink. My wife's like, "Are you more excited to be goalie today or for Christmas morning?" He's like, "Goalie for sure." So everyone in the family is stressed knowing my past to being a goalie and like what I put them through, right? Like, nobody wants to be the parents of the goalie. Like, absolutely nobody.
So you have 2 kids, right?
I do. Yeah, a boy and a girl. You met my son, actually. I saw you the other night. That was
Yeah.
Palmer. He was at the.
Yeah, you were at the game. Hutz was at the game against Chicago on Monday, so I bumped into him, and you bought your kid a jersey, which is really, really nice. What player did your kid get?
Yeah, he landed on Nylander. That was his choice. So we were with a gang of kids. There's 4 of them. So we were buying jerseys. They ended up getting the next gen jerseys, the Bieber one. So they were so pumped about it. He wanted Nylander. I don't know why. He wanted the Flash. That's what he wanted.
Hey, it's better than some other players. I think we've talked about this before. I'd probably go Matthews. I'd go one of the big boys for sure. But I love those next gen jerseys. Like, I was in the press box for that game, as you know, and I was telling people around me who would listen to me, quite frankly, I wouldn't be opposed to like making those the permanent home jerseys of the Leafs. Like, I like them that much. I think they have just smashed those, because I was in the mix for Sportsnet Radio when they had like those reverse retros. I don't know if even recall that year where they did reverse retros. Their reverse retros were the worst thing I've seen in my life, and that includes when I wake up and use the washroom for a couple minutes.
Yeah, those were tough. I remember reverse retros.
Brutal.
I think I was in Buffalo when we had them. We had like
Yeah.
those throwback, like that's when they started to use more that royal blue, which I love. When the Sabres, we switched from that navy to royal blue, which was awesome. And I agree with the Leafs jersey. Those are slick, man. That black with that blue on there, it looks awesome. And I just think it's nice to change it up. Yes, it's a historic jersey. Yes, the original 6 are cool jerseys, but at times it's nice to see something a little different like that.
Should have mentioned to you as well. So that game that I saw you in the third period, I sat the whole third period with your old coach, Donnie Granato.
Oh, nice.
He speaks highly of you. What a great dude, man. Just like, we just talked hockey for like 20 minutes. It was awesome. I loved it.
Yeah, he's a great guy. He kind of came in. He was our assistant with Ralph Kruger, and then Ralph got fired. He took over. I didn't play very much when he took over as the head guy, because that's when I hurt my ankle and I kind of missed the rest of that season. But he honestly, just a great guy, very approachable, more that modern coach, right? Like, just a guy. Well, you got it, right? You could talk to him, right? Sometimes when I was young, like when I had Ken Hitchcock, you couldn't talk to the guy. He was absolute but he knew his hockey. But it's changed, right? Like coaches treat players different. And Donnie Granato, great guy. He's doing unbelievable. And hopefully we'll see him back somewhere soon.
He's enjoying his time off, and Donnie said he's going to come on this podcast once again. If you do recall, he was on in September, but I just thought I would share that with you because I also sent you a picture. Somebody was randomly, and this is actually Stephen Ellis at Daily Faceoff pointed this out. Somebody was wearing a Carter Hutton Maple Leafs jersey, but I would have to think her last name was Hutton because it was 31. I think you were officially 29 as a Maple Leaf, no?
I think I was 29. There it is. That's a good looking Hutton there. That might have been me. That might be me in a few years. I don't get back in the gym here soon, buddy.
Whoa, man.
That was I think I was 40. I think they had me as 40. That was my number in the NHL. Okay. And then I think my Marlies, I was 29. That might just be custom. Who knows? Or maybe they were just trying to predict it. I don't know. It's too funny.
No, I thought it was so cool.
I got a chuckle.
Yeah, no, like I thought it was so interesting because you were in the building. I'm like, well, Hutz is in the building. There's got to be a relation there. But I'm like, the guy's never worn 31. So like I have to think her last name's just Hutton. But what are the chances of that?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe just it could be, right? It's I guess not that common of a last name. But yeah, I got a good chuckle when I saw that jersey. I was it was my jersey. We're just going with that. It was my jersey, and I was being idolized in Toronto, a fan wearing my jersey.
What's your take on this whole Jacob Trouba situation unfolding on Broadway? The captain of the New York Rangers will either be traded by 2 Eastern time or put on waivers, man. This is nuts.
Yeah, crazy end of a tenure here. I think this team is going to be motivated. I think there has to be, this has been going on for a while, I think, with Jacob Trouba. I think the way we watched him play in the last year, trying to keep up, just slow feet. The way the game's gone here and the way the Rangers are reeling right now, they had to do something. This is obviously a big message, right? Especially to your team and where they're at. And obviously, I think for Jacob Trouba, it's obviously disappointing, right? This is something where, he spent his life. I feel like he's not done in the NHL by any means, but the fact of the matter is he's just not doing what he needs to do on a team that considers himself a Stanley Cup contender, Nick.
Hutz, this is a reminder that it's a business, but it's always good leaning on somebody who played in the league. Like, how do you feel about this? Because I know some ex-players, namely Aaron Ward, are going off on social media right now that the player earned the right to get that no trade clause. And essentially what's happening is that the Rangers are forcing the hand, a la what they did with Barclay Goodrow, ends up with the San Jose Sharks, was pissed off about it. So like there's that threat. We put you on waivers, you can go to a very shit team. And that's what the pressure point in this whole situation, right?
Yeah, but the whole point of having a no trade clause and earning that value is to be a high-end player, right? And if you're not a high-end player, you're not holding up your end of the deal, right? And that's the inconvenient truth of like the life we live, right? You could take a discount, you could get as much as you want, whatever the contract is. But at the end of the day, the best players are going to play and you have to be talented. He's still going to make his money either way. So how does a team protect itself, right? I feel like it sucks because you start thinking about people as family men and things that go on in their life, how it is a big shock to the world, right? I always joke with friends and kids and people that talk to me like, oh, I played with you. I traded for you on NHL, whatever, right? And you're like, well, that in real life, that's your life, right? There's so many things that go into it that change. But the other truth is you have to perform, right? This is a high performance game. And we pick this lifestyle, right? If you're a professional athlete, you pick this lifestyle. It's not anyone else's fault. You have to deal with it. And yes, that sounds cold, but at the end of the day, there's a lot of good things that come with it, right? Those millions of dollars that he's made and the security that he has for life comes with it. So I walk the line with that because I understand the human side of it, of what goes into it. But I also understand that like we're very grateful and fortunate to be able to live the life we do after hockey because of what hockey provides for us.
Of course, this is an even more polarizing story because it's the captain of the New York Rangers. But the irony in the fact that Trouba sort of forced his way to New York from Winnipeg years ago, right? Where it was like something about his wife going to school or something like that. So they wanted to go to Broadway or close to that, didn't want to play in Canada, lands there, and his tenure there is going to end, unfortunately, in a rotten way, man.
Yeah, it sucks, right? It's I don't think anyone wants to see that other than the people that ate a few Trouba elbows. But like the fact of the matter is that like this is just the way the business works, right? And they have to do something. Their backs are against the wall. The Rangers are in a tough situation with the way they're playing and the way that they think I think they assessed this team the right way. I had heard some talks in the summer about they thought a few guys were getting older and where they were at, and they couldn't really make any moves at free agency and signing guys. And I think this is the way they have to do it. And it's obviously disappointing, I think, for Trouba. And I'm sure the Rangers don't want it to end like this either, right? This is obviously, they'd rather make a trade or do what they have to do, but it's business, man. Business trumps everything.
Really disappointed the Amazon cameras were on Jacob Trouba last year, not this year. Imagine watching this unfold in real time. They probably wouldn't air it, but talk about drama. Like
Yeah,
this has
that would have
been
been.
brewing for months. If you recall, in the offseason, there was speculation that the Rangers were trying to get him to waive. He didn't want to waive. Detroit was in the mix, then they weren't in the mix. It seems like everything's going to finally come to a head here, but like it's a year in a making. And you're right. Like the Rangers, you look at them in the standings, they're still in a playoff spot, but like there's a lot of turmoil surrounding that team right now, whether it's Trouba, whether it's a Shesterkin situation. It just shows you the volatility from year to year in this league, where you look at the Rangers, a perennial contender entering the year. They were really good again last year. And suddenly, like they're scratching and clawing for a playoff spot. It just shows you how difficult it truly is to win in this league, right?
Yeah, it is. It's crazy. It's just the margins are so thin, especially nowadays. I feel like with so many teams in the league and just a lack of superstars, right? At the end of the day, not that it's watered down. Like I hate that term, and I've heard it a lot about now with the NHL being bigger, but it is, right? You have to find a way to build, especially in a cap where it's hard. You get your superstars, they take all the money. So now there's not as much money to go around, and you're trying to fill those holes of because you need a complete team, right? I think this sport more than any other sport is you need a complete team to be able to win and to do. You just can't have a couple stars to push you over the top. Look at Edmonton, right? For years with McDavid and Draisaitl, they haven't been able to get themselves over the top. Yes, they've been close, but at the end of the day, you need that complete roster. So it's one of those things. It's always tweaking and trying to find it, and then you get there, and then you got to start to rebuild. It's exhausting in the cap era, and I think for fans of the Rangers, they want to start taking a step forward.
Speaking of a complete team, what's a better holiday gift than booking a trip with fellow diehard Toronto fans to watch the team you love play hockey in Nashville? Well, folks, here's your chance. Join us in Music City from Thursday, March 20th to Sunday, March 23rd, 2025 for the first ever TLN Nation vacation. From live podcasts, winery tours, to taking in the Toronto-Nashville game at Bridgestone Arena. This promises to be a wicked time. Why don't you tell us about Love and Exile Bar in East Nashville, excuse me.
Yeah, we could tell you a little about it there, Nikki. It's so a business I got into when I was just kind of on my way out of Nashville. I have a close friend there, Tyler Alkins. He's my managing partner. So we bought a building, started our own wine brand. So we have a wine brand that distributes to over like 500 places in like Tennessee and Middle Kentucky, kind of all in that area. Our brand is called Love and Exile. So we buy wine in bulk and we brand it and bottle, and we have cans, we have everything and bottles at our place. And we have a restaurant there as well with an outdoor venue. It's been a pretty cool venture, right? So it's grown into something really big and something that worked out pretty good my years in Nashville. And every year I would go back and play. We'd always have team parties there and functions, and something that I'm, very proud to be a part of, right? Something that was outside of my hockey career. My wife and I got into, help building the brand and growing it. And Tyler's done a great job down there, boots on the ground all the time. And, and then this trip kind of worked out. So hopefully we'll host a couple fun events there for everybody.
Yeah, shout out to Tyler. I visited, as you guys know, Nashville for a concert a couple months back. I went to Love and Exile Winery and Bar. Tremendous time, great food, great drinks, and fantastic venue. I sent you obviously a couple of videos, but it's a perfect venue for what we're looking to try and do here. So it's going to be about 30 to 35 of us, fingers crossed, on this trip, maybe more, who knows. But the plan is to do like a live podcast, whether it's Leafs Morning Take or the Leafs Nation After Dark. We're going to have some guests roll by, and Huts, you're going to be there as well. That should be a lot of fun, and I'm really, really looking forward to this trip.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I'm excited. It's always a good time to get to Nashville. It's really hard to not have a lot of fun in Nashville. It's a great city. It's just not pretentious, right? You can go anywhere. You can jeans and t-shirt. You can just sling it all day. Broadway, the game, wherever you're going. It's such a fun atmosphere in it, and a city I think a lot of people will have fun in, and I think it will draw a good crowd, especially with the Leafs coming to town.
It just shows you how amazing Nashville is. I've told this story before, but the first time I went to Nashville was I went to watch the Leafs Predators game. And I somehow met Carrie Underwood on the concourse level, because you know how like the suites are built into the concourse, and she was just walking with a friend. Like, it was the randomest thing ever, but only in Nashville would you see a star like that just walking amidst the people. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, I agree. She was just normal and down to earth. And
Yeah.
even just like the players, like I feel like we would go out and nobody cared. You know what I mean? Like the odd guy, like Mike Fisher got attention, Rene and Weber. That was about it. So it was kind of cool because you could still be like immersed in the scene and have fun and not be on guard of who's taking video of you, or like you think of like what the Leafs have to deal with, or the Habs, or in a bigger market. So there is a lot of value in that, I think, as a player. So especially being able to just live more of a normal life.
They thought you were the equipment guy, probably, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I've had that one many a times, buddy. No one believed me I was on the team, but you can lie enough, eh?
It's true. So, by the way, we're offering 2 packages for this trip. One with flights priced at $24.50 plus tax. One without $12.99 plus tax. So hotel rooms are double occupancy. So think about that. If you're interested in booking or more information, looking for that for this trip, head on over to nationgear.ca or check out the link in our show bio. It's there as well. Life's too short for ordinary vacations. And again, really, really looking forward to this. I'm going down. Everybody in the TLN team's going down. Huts, Rosie, Zach Phillips, producer Vic. It's going to be a ball, and just to watch the Leafs together, I think is going to be a lot of fun. Got the Leaf game coming up tonight. I'll be there in attendance. The Red Hot Washington Capitals playing the Leafs, and Dylan Strome, Rosie and I, Huts had a chance to catch up with Dylan earlier in the week. Man, the guy, I don't know if you've met him before. He's an absolute gem of a human being, and just very humble for how good he is at hockey. It's crazy.
Yeah, I don't really know him very well, played against him, but he is just found it right
Killing
now
it.
too, right?
Yeah.
And again, this is a great example, I think, sometimes in the NHL and just sports and life in general is like we want things right away, right? We want guys get drafted, they got to be good right away because someone else did it, because some other kid. It takes time to like figure out your game and figure out how to be a pro, and he is really getting it done here. And this Washington team is heading in the right direction. So this is going to be a big game tonight.
At the Leafs Nation 401, again, get those super chats in as well. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Leafs Morning Take, wherever you find your podcast, make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And don't forget to visit LeafsNation.com. Should mention as well, last night we did the official launch party for the sheet with Jeff Merrick. What a great turnout. What a great podcast. It's great to be teammates with Merrick once again. I was at Sportsnet with him for a couple of years and knew him well before that. But a lot of people in the industry were there. It was really, really cool. And it's pretty damn sweet to have Jeff Merrick on our side, man.
Yeah, it's awesome. He's a big name guy and he's so educated, right? He's like a unique perspective too, right? He's not the same just talking head. And the way he understands the game and what he knows, his history. And you know, for me, I love the education I get. I feel like every time I listen to him, just the pathways into the NHL, right? Like he knows so much more than just the NHL level, right? He understands the CHL, he understands USHL. And I feel like that is helpful too for a lot of people seeing it because like I get it, I lived it, I got to be part of it, but I feel like now circling back, it's changed a ton, right? The landscape is so different, you know, just the routes to the NHL and what goes on. So it's exciting. And, you know, he's always a good interview. He was on here the other day with us, and I look forward to seeing how the sheet grows here. And I think just the audience too, right? You're going to draw in a bigger audience, which is good for everybody here.
Speaking of big audiences, none bigger than Leafs Nation. And so it's a back-to-back here. Alex Ovechkin's not going to play, but we talked about this with Dylan, already skating like 2 weeks after breaking his leg. It's absolutely nuts. It's wild. And I wouldn't put it past Ovi to be back soon, but I don't think he's going to play in this game. But it's the Leafs and Capitals from Scotiabank Arena. I think the big story here is how good the Maple Leafs have been on home ice, Huts, throughout this season. 12-3-0. You saw the victory on Monday. No Domi, no Pacioretty, no McCabe. I think it's easy to make those decisions when you're winning hockey games, right?
100%, right? I think you could look back in the example of just Austin Matthews sitting out for as long as he did, right?
Sure.
It was probably one of those things where if they were buzzing a game under 500 during that, Matthews would have felt a lot more pressure. They would have felt pressure to get him back in, where now let's make sure everything's healed up with these guys. Same thing with Domi. I think McCabe is just, I had a chance to chat with him when I was there, played 3 seasons with him, came up and said hi to my kids and stuff. But it seemed precautionary for him. It didn't seem like anything major. And I think for these guys, again, let's just get these guys healthy and start to plug them in the lineup as we go here. Because again, I think there's a lot of pressure on this Leafs management team and the brass. You know, how are they going to, you know, get this roster back to where it needs to be when guys start coming back in? Like who's in, who's out? There's a lot of decisions to be made. And I feel like right now the microscope is on a lot of these players here playing.
You got the opportunity, as mentioned, to watch this team in person. Are they the real deal in your opinion?
They are, yeah. And I would say that's a tricky game to play against, right? I don't think the
was.
Hawks are a very deep team, and just like their neutral zone is so bad. And I feel like they weathered the storm there, but they just don't give up a lot, right? I thought Stolarz was really good in the second period when the Hawks made their push, right? This is still the NHL. Teams are going to make pushes, but then, you know, what was key for me was in the third period, right? There's about 5 minutes to go and the Leafs take a penalty. The Hawks could barely get the puck over the far blue line, right? And then they just locked that game up so tight. And that's what I find with good teams and teams that are just really hard to play against. Just the way they close time and space out there is so impressive. And I thought they did a great job of that. And just they seem to keep building on it. Even the other night, that game against Nashville could have been an easy stinker, right? They come back, they find a way to get into it, especially late in the third. And then again, they just snuff that game out and it's over late.
What was with the, you know, the Leafs, I guess, got a coach fired. Luke Richardson got canned yesterday, which I thought was so bizarre and intriguing. I heard an interview with Kyle Davidson the other day, the GM, and he was like speaking glowingly about his coach. And then all of a sudden, this guy loses his job. But I didn't expect it because I knew Chicago would be terrible. And I wondered about the moves they made in the offseason. Like you watched that game, so did I. I didn't even notice Connor Bedard out there. It just seemed like a bunch of players, like Tyler Bertuzzi. Didn't notice that guy. Like they had 17 former Maple Leafs on that roster, but they did not look like a cohesive unit where we expected this Hawks team to maybe take another step this year, and they've taken significant steps back. What was your read on like? It was weird to me to see him
Same thing, Nick. I honestly like their free agency. Like I'd be lying if I sat here and said like I thought they like put some pieces in there that they weren't married to, some guys that had some experience that would help them get a little bit better. Yes, they weren't like looking to grow, but I thought they weren't married to guys. I thought Turbo there, Teravainen was brutal, non-existent. I thought he just couldn't handle the
that
puck.
guy plays when he wants to play.
Yeah, and I guess I feel like Richardson getting fired is a great example of this young phenom Connor Bedard having a setback this year, right? These are guys you need to keep moving forward. And I honestly thought they were going to be a little bit better. You know what I really think hurts them as well is Laurent Brassard being hurt. Like he's a guy that can come in there and play good minutes and help this team get better. And Soderblom is a good young goalie, but he is not like an everyday NHL guy. And Peter Mrazek has played well these last 2 seasons in Chicago, but I feel like that could have helped this team as well. And again, I just think a lot of those guys they brought in, Craig Smith I play with Craig Smith. He's a little bit, he's getting long in the tooth now. He's played for a long time.
Yeah.
They need some younger legs, or they need something to mix this up because you don't want a Connor Bedard to play too many years on a bad team like this.
Huts, you know what's wild? Imagine the Leafs signed Laurent Brossoit and not Anthony Stolarz. If you recall, they were involved in those conversations. Like Brossoit was on the radar. It was either him or Anthony Stolarz. They go with Stolarz, but I don't think Brossoit's played a game for Chicago yet, has he?
No, he hasn't. I think he hurt I believe it was knee surgery in training camp or early on. But that just shows you how fragile it is if you don't have a guy, right? If you don't have one of those elite guys that are like consistently every year, you talk about Hellebuck, Shesterkin, Sorokin, Demko's been hurt a ton, Vasilevsky, guys that like give you lots of minutes and can play well and are consistent. The rest of it's a crapshoot, right? The rest of it is all just timing, right? And the roles being switched, like Brossoit could have went there and changed that. And maybe Stolarz is on the Hawks and the Hawks are rolling right now. Like who really knows, right? It's so fragile. And I think getting the right guy at the right time in the right situation is so tricky with trying to predict goaltending. And other than the fact of like, that's why it's so hard. You got to grow guys. You have to grow guys in your system so you have them and you can see them, because at free agency, it's always a coin flip.
Playoffs start today. It would be the Leafs and the Lightning. Surprise, surprise. One in the division against the wild card team, the second wild card team in Tampa. Who starts game one for you?
I think it's Stolarz right now. It's got to be Stolarz. Not to discredit Woll at all. He's been very, very good. But I think Stolarz has earned the right at this point. And I still think there's a bit of that just worrisome thought of Joseph Woll's health and how he can be. But I think it's a quick 1A, 1B, right? Like this could be a Bruins situation where like Stolarz gets game one and then Woll gets game two, no matter what kind of thing, like we saw with Swayman and Allmark. But I think right now Stolarz has to be your guy, just his like earn that pedigree with his age. But as this season rolls on, I really like where Woll's game's headed. He's looking very, very good.
Both guys have been really good. And I think in this market specifically, you're always trying to quantify what you have. And granted, the numbers speak for themselves, but the eye test suggests that the Leafs are getting amazing goaltending. Like I struggle on a daily basis. Is this Craig Berube's system, or are the Leafs getting just really, really sound goaltending? And believe it or not, I don't think it's Berube's system. I think these guys are standing on their head. Woll the other night, Stolarz every game this season. They're not letting weak goals in either. Like what's been your read in general when it comes to the crease? Because obviously the numbers speak for themselves, but we've seen so many examples of systems winning games, a la what Vegas Golden Knights did a couple years ago, right?
Yeah, I think it's a great point about like being a little mix of both, right? I think Craig Berube has the whole unit, like not just D, right? Everyone thinks like, our D are really good. Your forwards generate so much defense. It's wild. The way they reload, the way they back check, the way they funnel the front of the net, and then they keep things to the outside. But it's a mix, right? There's still going to be chances, no matter how good you are defensively. It's the NHL. There's going to be scoring chances. It's just the way the game's played. But I also think it's the fact that the game has got more predictable because guys are committed more to a system where they've lost the fanciness in their defensive zone, trying to move pucks, you see a lot of turnovers at the blue, Ryan. last year, right? How many times do we
Yeah,
sit here and we see pucks
true.
turn over? Even Nashville the other night. How many pucks did Nashville turn over at the blue line? Mitch Marner had a few there. He played goalie along the blue line and turned the puck over. But this is losing hockey, right? Where I think the Leafs are playing much better hockey. And I also feel like the fact of the matter is when guys have confidence and you're not seeing like stinkers go in the net, you can play more confident, right? Where last year was like when Samsonov was dialed in, he was so good, but then at times he'd give up a stinker and you can like feel the energy and the team and the building, even watching at home at times. You see a bad goal go in, it sucks the life out of the game. And I think right now the whole team is playing with so much more confidence because they know they just got to do their jobs. Everyone's kind of accountable. And I think that's been so important for this Leafs team here so far.
At the Leafs Nation 401, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. I think Tim Shabib in the chat makes a good point. We can actually break out of our zone now. It's a good point because last year, as you just talked about, it was a struggle to get the puck out of the zone. I just feel like there's a better link, a better connection between the D and the forwards this year. Would you agree?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's because guys are working in space, right? Guys are working back to the puck, right? So it's not like where sometimes, well, you talk about Willie Nylander, right? Like sometimes he'd be floating at the far blue line where you get guys to work back into space to be options for guys, and it makes it so much easier. And then you come up as a unit, and then you're much more effective, right? So yes, there's always going to be that flair in the offensive zone, right? And I feel like that's always the best teams and best coaches I played for. You give guys that offensive leash, right? To be creative, to create, because that's what you have to do. But then there should be non-negotiables in their game, which makes them more predictable and a better playoff ready hockey team.
Lines at the morning skate. You got Nyes, Matthews, Marner, Holmberg, Tavares, Nylander, Robertson, Minton, Lorentz, Grabenkin, Dewar, and Reeves on line 4. And again, it looks like Alex Nylander is going to be a healthy scratch for this game. We talked about it. No Domi, no Pacioretty. It sounds like both guys are close. We'll see. I know Pacioretty's eligible to come off LTIR coming up tomorrow, so we'll see maybe if they get one or both of those guys back in the lineup against the Pittsburgh Penguins. Riley Myers in the back end, OEL Tanev, Benoit Timmins, and Anthony Stolarz will start this game against the Capitals, who are having an unbelievable season. They're 17-6-2, man.
Yeah, unbelievable. This would be the one team that I never really saw coming.
True. Yeah.
Yes, I know a few people said like Washington will be good, but I did not see this one coming, right? Especially after their Cinderella run last year, and like the analytics were horrible. And not that I want to be a stat guy because I am not a huge underlying numbers, but it was a kind of a phenom last year, right? They like came out of nowhere. You never saw coming the way Lindgren played. I thought Lindgren played way above his shoulders, but now with two steady goalies there, because Darcy Kemper didn't have a great year last year. Now having Thompson there who's been lights out, and Ovi obviously having the start he has being hurt now. But just the whole team game, Jacob Chikrin's been awesome. I think he's a guy that's kind of got back to where we thought he could be his early days in Arizona. He's had injury problems over the years. I think him being healthy has been important for this hockey team. So they've been a fun team to watch. And again, I think you get a younger coach in there. They're not regurgitating the same old guys that have no relatability to younger players. And Carberry's done a really good job with this team, and it's been very impressive so far.
The following interview is brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers. Get custom ring building delivered in less than 4 weeks with the Charm Masterpiece Program and an unbeatable pricing policy. Charm Diamond Centers is proudly Canadian-owned and operated since 1972 with more than 85 locations across the country through Charm and their sister brands. For more information, go to charmdiamondcenters.com. As mentioned, Rosie and I had a chance to spend some time on Thursday with Dylan Strome, a Mississauga native and a Leaf fan growing up. So here's that interview. Enjoy. So happy to have on the podcast once again, Dylan Strome of the Red Hot Washington Capitals. Dylan, what's going on, buddy? How are you?
Not much, guys. Going good. Ready to head to Toronto here. Got Toronto, Montreal back to back, so it's always a fun road trip.
Great to have you. Now, you were telling me before doing this interview, you and we can see the evidence on your face, severely banged up. But we got to enter Rosie into the equation. Has taken a couple things to the face in his playing days, right, Rosie?
Yeah, I took straight clapper to the mouth, and it broke my palate and 30 stitches and 3 teeth. And yeah, I heard that about you. So your teeth are good. You've got one broken off and one root canal. And what's the damage in there?
Yeah, one root canal on Thanksgiving morning. Nothing compared to that, by the way. That does not look pretty. So I don't know how long that took to recover, but mine's not nearly as bad. I got a root canal on Thanksgiving, and then the next day, the next game after that, I got high sticked again, and the dentist goes, yeah, I think the one tooth that was chipped that was actually saved now needs a root canal. So I'm like, whatever, I'm gonna get rid of all of them at some point, I guess.
Brutal. Well, I hope hope you got fixed up the right way. That was 2017. I think I'm still in the chair to this day. I'm pretty much done, but there's still some problems. It's a nightmare, but way to tough it out. We appreciate that.
No, no problem. No problem. Thanks for having me on again.
You're prepping for a big night to go up into Toronto there. What's your thoughts on the Leafs team? How much do you prepare for them? Do you guys just focus on yourselves, or are you paying attention to what they're doing these days?
No, for sure. I think our coaching staff does a really good job of being pretty detailed on the team we got upcoming. They try not to look too far ahead, like past one game. So we're always kind of just dialed in on the team we have at hand. But we haven't had much success against Toronto since Carberry's been here. I think we're 0-4 against them in the last 4. So, it's something that obviously you got to be aware of. They're a really highly skilled team, and last year they beat us pretty good a bunch of times. This year I feel like we let one get away from us. I feel like we should have won that game, and they got 2 late goals, and then they won in overtime on Tavares' goal. So they're a tough team to play against, especially going into Toronto. We always know it's going to be a tough game, but I feel like I like the way our team's playing right now. We've been playing really, really well on the road, so just got to keep it up going into a tough building.
I was going to ask, like, what's the video session look like for that? Because you referenced it like a month ago. You guys played in DC and had one squander away. Obviously, the Leafs came back in that game. Like, how closely would you look at that type of game, or is it one of those things where like you guys know what you're capable of?
I think on game day more, like we watched some video of the game against like the previous team. A lot of the time, like day before the game or a couple days before, we're kind of focused on the previous game that we played. And kind of building from there. Every game is so different and every team is so different that, if you can focus on yourselves a lot more of the time, it's going to translate to, the majority of the time into the next game. So I think that we do a pretty good job of kind of looking at either, the team that we're playing against next, as well as the game that we just played, and kind of fixing some details and depending on if we win or lost, kind of how long the video session goes. But like I said, our coaches are really detailed when it comes to that stuff. So definitely, I'm sure tomorrow we'll watch some of the clips against Toronto last time.
You buried this year in November against your hometown team there. Was that special? Did you watch a lot of Leafs growing up? And how many friends and family were hitting you up for tickets for any game in Toronto?
Yeah, Toronto was one of the only 2 teams I hadn't scored against yet. So I knew that one was marked. And, it's obviously, cool to play against the Leafs. Of course, being from Mississauga and growing up a Leafs fan, it's always cool to play against them. They're, if not the most storied franchise in NHL history, obviously them in Montreal. So I think anytime you play against them, it's always a little bit extra, just especially being from Toronto and having lots of family and friends come to the games. But my brother and I kind of had a little thing where our first game in Toronto, we kind of get tickets for all our family and whoever wanted to come. And then as you guys know, the tickets in Toronto are a little bit jacked up. So now it's mostly just parents and maybe a couple family and friends, but not too many tickets, especially being in the East now, playing them 2 times a year. So
can't be playing for free.
It's very true. Dylan, is it true the Leafs were poking around on you a couple years ago in free agency? I'd heard a rumor about that, but I never knew if it was true or not.
I think just like the media kind of started it. To be honest, it was a weird time because I had gotten, not qualified by Chicago, and then it was only like 4 days till free agency. So, I don't know if my agent had any, talks with them. He definitely didn't tell me about it. If he did, I think at that point they only had, like around like 1.5 million in cap space to spend that summer. I can't remember the guy that they got that year, but there wasn't too much. Like, I think people think free agency is like you're going to have like 30 teams jumping out at you. That's what you hope, I guess. But, that really wasn't the case. It was kind of just more like the right fit. You start looking for a 3-year deal or a 2-year deal, and then eventually, a 1-year deal kind of just happened with Washington, and obviously very thankful for that and the way it's kind of worked out there for myself.
And so far this season, you're on pace to smash your career high right now. You came out of the gates really hot. What's changed for you this season? Have you found another gear, or just confidence is high, or things are just going in the net? You're off to a hell of a start.
Yeah, thank you. I think a lot of things. Our team is scoring so many goals. So it definitely helps when your team just gets that confidence that you're going to score like at least 3 every game. We've been scoring 4 most nights. So I think when your team has the confidence, you kind of just want to ride that out as long as you can. Like, our power play started to get a lot better, and I don't think it's anything different that I really did. Try to keep to the same thing that I've been doing the past couple summers, but when your team's scoring and everyone's feeling good, it's just it's a little easier to no one's gripping the stick tight. We're getting tons of chances, and when the pucks are going in, it's definitely a good feeling for the team. So just trying to ride that as long as we can.
Such a modest Canadian kid, dude. They're calling you Dylan Backstrom out in DC, as you know. I know it's your buddy, Nicky Backstrom. What's it been like to be on this ride with Alex Ovechkin? I know he's banged up, but that dude's a freak. He's already back and skating, as you know. Like, what's this whole ride been like to be alongside Ovechkin and play the best hockey of your career right now?
I mean, it's awesome. It's so fun to be around him and be a part of this. I think my first year here, especially, he was closing in 800 and then on Gordie Howe to pass second all time. So that was kind of, so cool to be a part of. I got an assist on the tying goal against Gordie Howe, the 801, which was cool against Winnipeg. So I'll always have that memory. And then last year he got off to kind of a slow start, obviously you guys know, and then he really picked it up the second half of the year, and kind of just rode that into this year. I mean, 15 goals in 18 games, and it felt like it just felt like one of those things where every game you go into, like, he's going to get a couple of really good chances to score, and when he gets good chances to score, it's usually in the back of the net. So unfortunately, that happened in Utah after he had two, the kind of early in the third, and he just had a hat trick the night before in Vegas. So we were all hoping for back-to-back Hatties, and then that happened. So that was obviously unfortunate. But I have no doubts that he's going to get back to that scoring way as soon as he gets back. And we obviously miss him. But yeah, it's been honestly unbelievable to be a part of. You can kind of feel it every game. It's like you feel like he's getting closer and closer. And, even when he scores in the road city, like, people are still cheering and, like, they want to see him score, and he delivers almost every time. So it's definitely something that is really cool to be a part of and fires up our team.
That is impressive. And you've been a part of a bunch of those goals this season, assisting on quite a few. Inevitably, he's going to break the record. Do you start to think about if you're the guy that sets him up and how that could happen and how many times that play could be on a loop throughout history and you be the one to set it up?
Yeah, I mean, of course. I think everyone thinks about that. Everyone on our team, especially. I've been fortunate to be put on a line with him, and we got some good chemistry. And when you play with a guy that has that many points, like, he just knows where to go to get open and knows how to create plays. And it feels like every time we're on the ice, like, you can get a chance to score, which sometimes in my career has definitely not been the case, where you're kind of you're hoping for one or two chances in a game to really bear down and put it in. When I feel like when you're playing with him, it's like he's hoping to get a chance every shift. And of course, everyone's thinking about getting the assist on the record goal, but it's so random that who knows what's going to happen. I mean, you could have 30 assists on his goals, and then that one you don't. So my job's to help him get the puck and help him get in good areas and help the team win. And he does a great job of supporting me as well as getting open and doing the rest.
You guys have been absolutely buzzing throughout this early season, but I wanted to ask you, like, what's the most amazing thing to you about Alex Ovechkin? For me, it's his longevity. We just talked about the fact that this guy just rarely misses games, and B, it's like you always know where the puck's going to go and where he's going to shoot from, specifically on the power play, and nobody has an answer to it. It's hilarious to me.
Yeah, like, people always ask, like, how does he score from the same spot consistently? He just finds a way to get open. Like, we obviously drop different plays in the power play and different ways to get him open and things like that. But at the end of the day, if they just keep a guy on him the whole time on the power play, it's going to be a 4-on-3, which is a great chance to score. So you kind of got to look at it both ways. He's scoring 5-on-5, 3-on-3, 5-on-4, 5-on-3 especially. We're always trying to get him the one-timer, of course. So I think as much as teams try to stop it, it can kind of hurt them in ways because there's four other guys on the ice playing against a 4-on-3. So a 4-on-3 is usually a pretty good chance to score. So we just try to get him the puck and he does the rest.
And being as you've been in the league for quite a while, the draft might seem like a while ago, but do you pay attention to some of your, I'm not going to say your competition within your draft? Mitch Marner was back-to-back picks alongside with you. You're playing him this week. Do you pay attention to that kind of thing, or is that kind of lost in the weeds at this point in your career?
I think, after so long, it's kind of, not too many people talk about the draft anymore. I think those are kind of the players that you grew up playing against. So I feel like it's kind of been your whole life playing against those guys that you got drafted with. So, of course, like, I think everyone's competitive and everyone wants to be better than the guy that was drafted, in front of them or behind them or whatever it may be. But I think if you get caught looking at that stuff for too long, it's only gonna hurt you in the long run. So, I'm obviously we've been friends for a long time. We played together a bunch of times. He's a hell of a hockey player and deservedly on Team Canada. And he's a fun player to watch. That's for sure. It's not fun when you're playing against him, but it's fun. He's a fun player to watch.
Could only imagine. Spencer Carberry has done an incredible job. Of course, we know him in these parts. You guys plucked him away a couple off seasons ago. Can you tell us more about, playing for Spencer Carberry? Because again, I think he's right in the running right now for the Jack Adams.
Yeah, he's a very intense coach. Like he definitely wears, his heart on his sleeve. Most nights, I think, when we win a game, he's in the room, he gives his post-game speech, and he's fired up and he's happy, and he's giving shout outs to all the guys that played well, and the goalies especially. And when we lose, it's it's pretty serious, and it's pretty a serious vibe around the room and the next day in the rink. So I think we obviously have found a way to score lots of goals this year, which has kind of kept the mood light, and kind of kept everyone feeling pretty good about themselves, feeling good about their game, and obviously you feel good when you score goals and you make plays and you get assists and stuff, and when the team's winning. So he's a really intense coach, but I think he's really, really good at X's and O's, and like I kind of said before, he's really dialed into the team that we're playing against next, which is I found that's been huge the last couple of years.
So you just mentioned to Rap that you were a Leafs fan growing up. Did you have any favorite players?
Like my kind of heyday of the Leafs was McGillney, Robertson, Sundin. That was kind of like my favorite line. So like 04, 03, 04 when they beat Ottawa in the first round both years. I think it was 03, 04, yeah. And then they lost to Philadelphia. At least in 04, I know they lost to Philadelphia in overtime in Game 6, I think. So those were kind of my like three favorite players to watch growing up. And then eventually my brother got drafted, so I became an Islanders fan. And then you yourself gets drafted, so you kind of got to stop keeping tabs on the Leafs as much as I did when I was a kid.
The Paquin era was phenomenal. Well, Dylan, you're having an incredible year. Keep it up. We can't wait to see you on the Ace on Friday. And thank you so much for doing this, man.
No problem. Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
What an absolute beauty. Dylan Strome of the Washington Capitals. And it was very gory to start that interview. Rosie's face that he showed from his days playing was nuts. But obviously, Dylan's going through a lot right now. It took, I think he was mentioning 2 different high sticks in back-to-back games. It's part of of playing the game, I guess.
Yeah, it is. It's a tough league out there. And that's why I wore a mask so I could stay. I was getting ready for my next career, Nicky.
Dude, yeah, exactly. You got to keep that pretty face. But like, do you ever think about like what it was like to be a goalie like 30, 40 years ago, where those dudes are just putting their face in front of the puck? Like, that's wild stuff.
No, it's insane, right? Even when we were at, when I was in Toronto with my little guy, we went to the Hockey Hall of Fame, and we went to like the mask section, and we're like looking at all the old ones. And even that, like what they used to wear back then, it was so wild, right? Like that's why even now I feel like when I played, people would always be like, "You're so crazy, you're the goalie." I'm like, I'm the safest guy on the rink. I have all the equipment on. I'm watching the puck. These guys got to block shots. They're getting stuck. They're getting body checked while guys are taking 1-Ts. It's nuts out there.
Absolutely incredible. It's time for the Great Clips Inbox Question of the Week. With more than 4,400 hair salons throughout the United States and Canada, Great Clips is the world's largest hair salon brand and official hair salon of the NHL. Salons are locally owned and operated and open 7 days a week. Your time is valuable. Use the Great Clips check-in app. See the wait time, check in on your phone, and get the haircut you want. So today's question is about Dennis Hildeby from at the Leafs Nation or at Leafs Nation 67. Would you drop Hildeby now that he's dropped to 4th on the depth chart? Would you trade him?
Ooh, I understand where you're coming from, but I think that's a heavy no for me, right? You just can't have enough goaltending depth. We've seen it so many times in the NHL. Last year, we used 98 goalies in the NHL across 32 teams. You need depth, and this is one of those things where maybe a guy gets hurt, who knows who comes up. I just think having goaltending depth at this level in the NHL, because I just don't think you're going to get enough in return to get rid of him for no reason, right? That'd be my biggest takeaway. Yes, maybe if he was like incentivized on a big deal where you could bring somebody in, but I think you need the goalie depth in the NHL.
Call me a contrarian, but the one thing teams always covet is goaltending. And if I have an excess of that or a surplus of that, whatever you want to call it from the Maple Leafs perspective, who else are you giving up in a trade? If you have that conversation right now, you're not trading Minton, you're not trading Cowan, maybe a Danford who's not really having a good year right now in the OHL. So you're very limited, which leads you to Hildeby. I think if you get a trade offer, I think Hildeby is going to be in that trade offer, and I'd pull the trigger. I'm trying to win the Stanley Cup right now.
Yeah, I could see that too, but I guess maybe I'm biased because I'm a goalie, but I just feel like depth rise. You lose one guy right now or 2 guys get hurt, and we've seen it so often, right? But I could see if he's a piece that gives you maybe he's an add-in to – I get your point. If you can bring somebody in that's going to push you over the top, maybe that's it, but goalie depth is hard to come by. Every team wants it.
That's exactly it. That's my biggest gripe in Leafs Nation. They want Brock Nelson. They want this guy. They want that guy. They don't want to give anybody up. Well, you're going to have to give something up. And for me, Dennis Hildeby, I'm including him in a deal. I'm trying to win a Stanley Cup right now. For more information, check out greatclips.com. Great Clips. It's going to be great. Any last thoughts on this back-to-back Washington Saturday, Pittsburgh on the road? Washington on Friday, Pittsburgh on the road on Saturday. The Cavs have been good all year, but actually Pittsburgh's been hot lately.
Yeah, I think it's going to be another good test here tonight. I think this is one. And again, Pittsburgh's playing well, right? I think that's 4 straight from them. They have the Rangers tonight. So it's going to be a good test, I think, for both teams. The one for me is the fact that you have both goalies going. It's a back-to-back. It's a no-brainer, right? You got your guys going. So hopefully they can keep going as is. And the big boys stay hot here because Matthews is firing right now.
He is. It's time for the last call, brought to you by Bet365. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Use code NATION, NATION, all in uppercase today. Hit me with a bet, my man.
I'm taking the Rangers tonight, I think, at home in regulation. They're against the Pens. I know the Pens are getting a pretty good line. The Rangers have been reeling, but I think this Trouba news shocks the room. I think that you get a response from your team. I think this is one of those new coach bumps. So I'm taking the Rangers here to hammer them tonight.
I love that. You do a Leafs podcast. You pick a game that's not the Leafs. Well done, Huts. Well done.
Isn't that what I'm
look to this
supposed to do?
Leafs game. Pardon me?
Isn't that what I'm supposed to do? We already did the Leafs. We know what's going to happen there.
No, I want to bet from the Leafs game. But anyways, I never set up my co-host for success on this podcast. I'm going to take the over 4.5 shots on goal for Austin Matthews. I think he tucks again tonight. I know it's an easy bet because this guy scores every game, but he's starting to cook. And I liked what I saw in that third period from Marner and Matthews back together. So I'll play the ATG as well. Anytime goal for Matty as well.
Yeah, I hit that the other night on starting goalies, right? Because things in motion seem to stay in motion, buddy. And Austin Matthews is definitely one of those.
Love it, my friends. So excellent job today. Thank you to Dylan Strome for dropping by the show. And there goes another week of Leafs Morning Take, Huts.
Yeah, thanks, Nicky. Appreciate you having me on, buddy. I'm the guest co-host. At one point, you just got to call me the co-host. Let's drop.
Yeah,
that
I know.
guest tag,
Rosie
buddy.
misses so many shows. You're just the co-host, I guess. we dropped the guest part.
That's okay. We'll get there one day.
Yeah, maybe I'll evaluate things after today's show. Maybe we'll just drop the guest part because I do agree with you. You've co-hosted a lot of shows with me. You're a main guy when Rosie can't do it, so I appreciate that from you. Thank you to everybody in the chat. You guys are excellent, as per usual. Again, book those Nation vacations, folks. NationGear.ca, where you can do that. At the Leafs Nation 401, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Many thanks to producer Vic. You can catch us in podcast form as well. Anywhere you find your podcast, just search Leafs Morning Take. Make sure you leave us a 5-star review. Also, do not forget to visit theleafsnation.com. For Carter Hutton, I'm Nick Alberga. Have a great weekend, everybody. Take care. Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long-form interviews. We got clips. We got epic rants by Jay Rosa. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.